Brilliant. I think that's us live. Hi, Cheryl.
Hello.
Welcome, everyone, to my first show as the newest member of the Mental Health Warriors team. And I'm really excited to be hosting this first show. I'm really excited about who's joining me, Cheryl. We're going to be talking about anxiety and overwhelm and kind of impact on well-being. But first, I'm going to just play the video and then we'll talk after that. So I am warning you, if you are slightly going to sleep, this is really loud. I did warn you it was loud. It does wake you up, doesn't it? So I thought for the first show, I could talk a bit about sort of my personal journey over the last couple of years with mental well-being and with stress, and then talk about a few of the things that have helped me along the way as well, and go into a couple of techniques that's helped me, and hopefully it can help someone else, and techniques that I help with the people that I coach as well. So I couldn't think of anyone better to join me on my first show than Cheryl Prince. Not only because she's one of the most amazing people that I know, but she's also my sister, who's been on the same kind of difficult journey that we've had over the last couple of years. So before we go into what's happening with us, I just wanted to do some proper introductions. So I'll introduce myself and then hand over to Cheryl. So as mentioned earlier, I'm the newest member of the Mental Health Warriors team. I'm really pleased to be part of that team because we're so focused on mental wellness and mental well-being, and we all have these mental struggles. So it's really important that we talk about them and we're really open about them. We normalize it a bit more. And looking after your own mental well-being, it's a practice. It's not something that you just do as a one-off. And that's one of the reasons why I changed my careers after 20 years of working in the corporate world. I became and sort of certified and got qualified in mindset coaching and hypnotherapy. And so I get to work every day now helping people with their mental well-being. So I feel like that's the best job in the world. I love being able to help people feel better about themselves. My background is I've always been really interested in the power of the mind, doing a psychology degree. I went back to study positive psychology as well, which is the science of well-being, and then became qualified in coaching and hypnotherapy and NLP. So I'm a mindset coach now. So sometimes people ask, what is that? So a mindset coach is someone who helps people uncover sort of limiting beliefs and behaviors that they may have and understand why we may have this self-sabotaging behavior. And by bringing about that awareness, we can start to bring about that change. And hypnotherapy works at a deeper level, but doing the same thing. So really altering behavior patterns, and it's really effective in reducing anxiety and fears and phobias and these kind of self-limiting beliefs. So that's a bit about me. I wanted to hand over to you, Cheryl, to make an introduction.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I just saw the video for the first time, and that never quit at the end really sent ripples right through my spirit. Because I think that's an amazing reminder, because it is tough dealing with your mental well-being. And I also call myself a warrior witch. So in honor, I wanted to bring that into the space today, because I'm a theatre maker, an actress and a writer and a healer. And I merge those together. It's very important to me not to be one of those without all of them feeding in. And the reason is because when I retrained to be an actress, I found it very hard on my mental and emotional health. Lots of things were happening to me that were quite overwhelming. And I actually went to work with a healer to kind of work with my energy. And what I realized later was my gifts. I have quite a spiritual practice. And I know that there's a big link between spirituality and mental health. That for me as a healer particularly, I feel very passionate about the fact that sometimes actually what feels like a breakdown of your mental health is your biggest awakening and breakthrough. And certainly for me, I was going through this sort of transition of really feeling energy for the first time, spirit, and things were happening to me like that. And some people do label that as mental illness. And for me, it was the biggest breakthrough moment of my life. And it actually turned me into a much more expansive, open, and it brought a lot more like love and connection into my life. So I just want to put that out there in case anyone else is kind of wrestling with the mental health and spirituality. That is kind of my passion and my love to bring that actually for many people it's a gift, but in our Western society sometimes we don't see it that way. We don't honor the shamans and the witches and the healers in the way that we maybe used to, or we do in different places.
Yeah, really good point. And that's just reminds me when you said at the beginning about warrior witch, and warrior is very much our kind of essence, isn't it? It's that kind of like knowing the power within and sort of feeling that fierce.
Yeah, and fighting for what you believe in, and most importantly, fighting for yourself, because there's times that you want to crumble and give up, and that your mind or your body or your spirit does things that you don't think that you can. And I think why it's been amazing for me, because you've retrained and changed careers in this last year, is that I feel like I've got a very strong spiritual health, but sometimes my mind would play tricks with me. And so I got supported by you to have a stronger mind. And I think vice versa, it's like sometimes I'm giving you spiritual techniques. And I think that's the most important thing, to not be alone and to ask for help when you're struggling.
So I think we've done that a lot, haven't we, over the last couple of years? We've had quite a few challenges thrown our way. And if I can just kind of speak through those a little bit so people can understand, and maybe people have been going through the same thing, or I think how I find it difficult is when there's so many things just sort of layered on top of each other. So over the last sort of couple of years, year and a half, myself and Cheryl, we've had a situation. We've had quite a few things thrown at our family. Basically, our dad was diagnosed with cancer last year, was, becoming quite ill from it. We've gone through a sort of quite a turbulent time trying to get him back well, because it wasn't just cancer, it was hyperparathyroidism as well, which meant that he needed 2 separate operations and rounds of chemotherapy, whilst also having sort of lots of other things that just seemed to fail on him. And so because of this and the stresses on the NHS and going through COVID, it meant that there was sort of hospital visits and being taken into hospital, so on a weekly basis, not being able to go in because of COVID, and then not knowing what treatments actually he needed to go through, and then having to see him go through really debilitating chemotherapy, which was really, really tough. And I think all of this was happening at the same time when myself and Cheryl both had a lot of other things to juggle. So I've got a family. As I've said before, right at the beginning, I was retraining and setting up a new business. Cheryl was doing the same, whilst neither of us live near our mum and dad either. So the sort of travel there as well, and then seeing the overwhelm and the difficulty from the ripple effect of friends and family and our mum, and it was just overwhelming for everybody. And the impact that has on your mental well-being, I think you just stop thinking about yourself and you're just thinking about others all the time. And it's that constant energy drain. It's draining physically, it's draining emotionally, it's draining mentally, it's draining spiritually, it drains every part of you. And you just become so overwhelmed. And then even little things, I think you really struggle with. It has such an impact. I mean, what's your reflection, Cheryl, over the last year and a half?
Yeah, I think it's because I'd already set up, I'd already written my first play, and I actually was in the process of having a deadline when Dad got really, really sick, and I ended up moving home for a while when we was going through chemotherapy, and it was like all my creative projects had to go to one side. And actually some of what I was writing about was a character who was a carer, and I found it a little bit close to the bone for me from everything I was going through. And it's not just, and I kind of want to speak out to anyone else that's doing caring, it's not just the time that you're caring, it's actually the emotional impact when you go away, because there's like a guilt that you're not doing enough. Or for me, I'm a really passionate person. I feel I'm really aligned with my sole purpose in life, which is a gift. But I lost my passion for what I do, because what became more important was seeing somebody I loved sick, and that it felt helpless. And it, like you said, we've been going through 2 years where it's been tough in the NHS. It's been tough getting help. It's been, you're not allowed to go in with anyone, and the mental impact's been huge. But I think that I took a few things away from it, that actually my time, because I don't have children, my time was all about me before, and now it's suddenly about my parents as well. But actually there's been a gift in it, that now we have the quality time that I never had in my whole life. As an adult, I'm coming back to go, well, this time is precious. We might not have had this. Our dad was diagnosed, that we were told it was terminal at one point, and it turned around huge. The second thing I did, which was beautiful and a miracle, and I'm so grateful for, I sat around with sisters, including my actual sister, and we prayed and we did healing work, and we hoped for a better outcome. And a few weeks later, we got it. So I do believe in the power of prayer and love and miracle. And then I think it was, you're right, caring for everybody else. And I really see how, mothers juggle that, and then having parents too. Everyone else comes first, and then your business, you're trying to give that the energy, and then you've lost the self-care for you. So one thing that I really stands out when it was really, really hard and traumatic is you did, I think it was like a timeline therapy for me once, and kind of dissolved, because some of the memories I have of being in the hospital just shake me up to the core. And it was like dissolving those and taking the trauma out of what I'd been living through. And I found that really helpful to go, actually, I can't care for anyone else if I'm not in a good shape or caring for myself.
Yeah, and that is the thing, isn't it? It is that mask analogy on the aeroplane. You have to put your mask on first, because you literally can't help anybody else. I mean, so us kind of, I think we have kind of come around and out of it a little bit, as in we've realised that we need to sort of spend more time on our self-care. Anyone else sort of going through this, what would your advice be to kind of start taking time for themselves?
So I think it depends whether you work in the field of mental health in any way. And if you do, so for example, I'm a healer, I'm an energy healer. And I work with soul and spirit. So my go-to practices mean that it's very important for me to give what I would give somebody else back to myself, which means that I sit, sometimes my day starts a lot later. I'll be doing breath work, yoga, moving trauma in my body. I'll be tapping in and getting guidance, because I need these slower, more peaceful moments. And I make a practice of clearing out my energy field, because I know that we carry trauma, illness and everything in my body. So I think if you have a practice already, make sure you're using those on yourself. If you don't, for me, the biggest gift has ever been to me is meditation. And by meditation, I never, hardly ever do sit in silence meditation. I use music. I record guided meditations for people. Mine are always guided, or I use music, or I used to use drumming to get the brain wave in the right place. Because I actually think when you say to somebody, "Oh, just sit in silence,"
yeah, it doesn't work for me. I've always struggled with it that way. I'm very much like, I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time. But then I thought it isn't just that kind of like, oh, meditation is like sitting there like that.
No.
It can be. So now I think, oh well, I'll be more mindful when I'm going on the school drop. So it's like I'm walking down and I'll just be more mindful, because that's what meditation is. It's a focus, isn't it? So rather than having everything overwhelm, it's a focus. So I might think about, oh, the leaves on the trees, or hearing some birds, or and I'll have that kind of focus.
And running is a meditation. I know that movement. I always say to people, like, dancing is a meditation. Don't think that sitting on a mat in silence is the way to meditate.
Yeah.
That's not for me. I think that's a kind of an old paradigm. And if it works for you, brilliant, embrace it. If it doesn't, move your meditation. That might be
Yeah.
the space for you. It's why great ideas always come in the shower, and because your body's flowing, moving, and
Yeah.
you're relaxed.
Water. Yeah. And
Also,
wasn't it one day we were like, do you know what we need? We need to just go down to London and we just need a dance. And I think the Morning
done.
Glory was back on, wasn't it? The sober raves. And we went and had a dance, and that's just what we needed to do. Like 4 hours of just dancing.
Yeah.
Makes you feel really good. It's bringing things in that whatever makes you happy, isn't it? It's bringing back joy into your life, because it can just be so stressful. And you think, sometimes you think, I don't deserve to laugh. I don't deserve all that joy when someone's going through so much pain.
Yeah.
We all do deserve that happiness, and it's not actually going to help anyone if you're just completely overwhelmed. And so, you do deserve to have that little bit of happiness in your life as well.
Yeah, and I did start belly dancing for the first time over this period, because I just was like, I can't take belly dancing too seriously, because it's just so like silly and fun to me. And I don't do enough, and it's a good reminder. Laughter yoga I found quite liberating, because you do laugh whether whether you like it or not. What about you? What have you found the best techniques?
I did do laughter yoga once over lockdown, but it was online, and I couldn't work it out on my phone how to see anyone else. So basically, I could only see myself and didn't know whether anyone else was laughing. So it was a little bit weird, a little bit strange. But I think it's just fitting in those things, isn't it? For me, the sort of walking meditations, getting outside, getting out in nature, getting out, just even if it can just be sort of 15 minutes somewhere, just into the woods, outside, fresh air, movement. That's definitely the thing that works for me. And then just trying to remember to switch off from like the tech as much as you can as well, because you can kind of be like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got so many to-do lists, and then I'm scrolling, looking for something, googling something, and it's like, actually just stop, have a cup of tea, have a break from the tech. That really helps as well.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring in one thing that I think is really important, and I do it because I have quite a lot of emotion. I'm quite an emotional person. And actually, I realized what was causing me more overwhelm and anxiety was not honoring what I was feeling. So now I make a practice of, if I'm feeling like, oh, I'm getting quite stressed, I'll go, now sit on the mat and feel it. And then that's sometimes, because when I used to work in an office, I used to go to the toilets to cry when I was overwhelmed or something big was going on. And now I give myself the gift of, no, that's your sacred cushion, I call it. And if you need to sit and cry, you take your time. So it's a really kind practice. And then whenever I do that, it's like, oh, now I don't feel that. Ugh. It's like, okay, that just needed to. And I think honoring our feelings is a really healthy way to combat anxiety. It's works very well for me.
I love that crying cushion. I'm going to go and get one. Crying cushion. You could have a whole array of cushions of all different emotions and be like, which one am I going to sit on now?
I love that. You could have a happiness one. And, oh my God, I'm going to do that.
Well, that kind of brings me nicely on to I've got a couple of techniques that have helped me. So I'm really hoping that they might help other people. If it helps one other person, that's great. The first one is a technique you can do anytime. These are like just a couple of minutes that they take. And this one's for overwhelm, anxiety, and you've got too many thoughts going on when there's just a lot, and you just, it kind of paralyzes you. And it only takes a few minutes, and the more that you practice it, the more it becomes easier as well. And what you were touching on there, Cheryl, about meditation, this is kind of like a 2 minutes, 2-3 minute meditation. You can just do this anytime and kind of, bring it, center you back to calm, basically. So I think, Cheryl, you're going to close your eyes, and as I sort of guide you through it, I'm going to do it on the show now, and let's see how that goes. So any time you can do this, just take somewhere where you can be a couple of minutes where you're not going to be disturbed. Close your eyes, and then in your mind, if you can imagine a white room, so a plain white room, and there's a door on one side and there's a door on the other. And now you can just imagine any thoughts that you've got floating into the room, perhaps from the door on the left. So just imagine those thoughts floating in. And just notice whether there's lots of them or whether there's a few. What I'd like you to do now is just notice the thoughts. So don't link thought after thought after thought, just notice them. So, if there's a thought that comes in, for example, I need to charge up my phone, don't then think, if I don't, it won't work tomorrow, then I won't be able to use it. Don't spiral these things. Just notice the one thought, I need to charge my phone. And then with that thought, just see it drifting out the door on the right, because you've got the power in your mind to decide what to focus on and what to let go. And so now you can just start to watch as thoughts float in the door on the left, and you notice them, and then just mentally watch them float out the other door. And as you do this, you can notice the speed of the thoughts, how many there are, but just notice them and then let them float on by out of the room. And we can bring in some breath work at the same time here to really help reduce stress levels. So you can take a nice deep breath in. And as you exhale, you can think of your breath blowing the thought across the room and out the door. And you can do that again, breathing in and with your breath blowing the thoughts out the door. And if there's no thoughts coming in, that's fine. You can just take a deep breath and imagine fresh air flowing through the room. And you can do this with this white door image, white room, or you can do it with different images like leaves floating past on a stream or clouds in the sky. It's just about noticing, taking a deep breath, and on the exhale, releasing out and away. So if you want to open your eyes, how was that, Cheryl? How are the thoughts for you?
So well, it was really interesting, because as soon as I sort of went into the first door of the thoughts, it was like my brain, because I'm at home at the moment, my parents' home, looking after them at the minute, and my thought was just stuck on, are they okay? Is everything okay? It's like that constant. And then I kind of thought, okay, when you guided me through and just said, okay, witness that thought, it's like I went, okay, what is that thought doing? And then I realized that my bum was clenching really, really tight. The jaw was getting tight. So I just went, okay, breathe. And then felt that go through. And then sort of sending it out the other door, it felt like it really did release it. And what I saw coming out of the door was like light and energy. And that's what spirit is to me. And suddenly I realized how I can go into the higher frequency by really feeling into the problem and then going into the release. And that was so quick.
I know, and that's the thing, it's the power of your mind, and you can reduce your anxiety levels right down in a couple of minutes just by the key is just notice a thought. It is just that, it's just a thought, and you can go, oh, that's what that thought's telling me, and now I release it. And I really like that, show when you said it's sort of breathing in light. I think that's a really nice visual, even you can breathe in light on that in breath, and it's light, and there's any negativity and tension or whatever flowing away. So, if it works for you, like certain colors, breathing in, or lightness, and then breathing out any sort of, lower vibration, whatever works, then it's that same principle. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Nice. So now you're a little bit more relaxed. I've got another technique which I wanted to go through before we close. And this is for if you're like me and you've got quite like an inner critic, or like a constant worry, something doesn't seem to leave you alone, a strong negative thought that seems to just like there in your head maybe it's an inner critic that tells you you're no good, or it's just kind of like, a real sort of catastrophizing thoughts. This helps shift your mindset from a kind of negative into a positive again in a couple of minutes. So it's again, close your eyes, Cheryl. It's my guinea pig. And think about something that may have been difficult for you this week. So maybe a stressful day, stressful part of the day, something that's caused some stress. And then when you've got that in your mind, think about the message that you've been telling yourself. So what do you think about this event? What are you telling yourself about it? What's the main worry? What are you hearing? What is that thought? Is it a negative one? Is it the voice of an inner critic? And think about where in your mind is this message, this voice, this thought. Is it at the front of your head? Is it the side? And what's the tone of voice of this message or this thought? And then with that thought, just think about popping it out of your head. So place it somewhere across the room, away from you. So it's right over there in the corner. And just notice now you're listening to that thought, but it's that thought right over there. It's the other side of the room. It's just a thought telling you something. There's no facts in it. It's just a thought from somewhere over there. And you can leave it be over there. And now you've got space in your mind. You can think about, could you think differently about this event or situation? Is there an opportunity here? Is there a positive that could come out of this? And with that different thought, that more positive thought, think about that floating back into your mind and let that run on repeat instead. And then open your eyes. How was that?
Yeah, so I could hear people moving around, so I kind of jarred myself out of it. But I love that because it's like this is what life is like at the moment. But
Yeah.
it's interesting because the thought that came up about something that I was going through is it's too hard. And I realised that I've probably been playing that on repeat, and it's a bit of a default go-to. And I love that we're on the mental health warriors, particularly because when you said place it over there, it was like I did have space for something new to come in. And I feel like I'm fighting quite a big spiritual battle at the moment with my work. And then what came in was not if you've got your tribe and your community. And then it was like, we can start a revolution. And it felt amazing because then I was like, oh, we're at the beginning, the tipping point of change. Things I've been processing. But when I got stuck in the too hard, I could feel my jaw and my bum going. And then there's no space to think a new thought when you're tense and stressed. And then it's, I don't know, reaching for that ease of there's a better way.
Yeah.
And we all need that gift, don't we? That just a moment of release to go, what's the new way?
Is there something? Let me just, it's about being curious. I always say, don't beat yourself up about things. Don't ever say, oh, why am I thinking that negative? Or why is it? Just be curious. The word is curious. So it's just like, I wonder if there is some light out of this. I wonder if I could look at this differently, and then just be kind to yourself and look at it with that sort of curious nature. Because this is just about, just like, is there, can I shift this? Because our subconscious mind, which controls most of what we do, doesn't know the difference between truth or fiction. So if we're sitting there just sending all these negative messages, it's kind of going, well, I'm going to get stressed because I'm in a world where there's all of this bad stuff happening. So if we can just shift it and say, oh, well, there is this other option. It's like, oh yeah, actually, I'd quite like to follow that one. And like with the other technique, it's a couple of minutes of just helping you shift, isn't it?
And I think for me, what I really noticed, and maybe it comes in at my perspective of it, is that when you give space, and I was just witnessing my thoughts, I was like, okay, I'm feeling it really hard. When I released it, what I feel is energetic space is created, and the higher self, our wisdom can come in, because it was just like that. Oh, I've got a new solution. But when we are stuck in the struggle with our own body and ourselves, it's like you can't have your higher self can't come in. It's like, I've got some wisdom for you. And just like that.
We've always got that inner wisdom, haven't we? We've always got that inner wisdom. All you've got to do is take that time to just stop and actually listen. And that's often where you do need to lean on other people. And I really like what you were saying about the community. And that is like, isn't that the essence here of mental health warriors or any kind of tribe or community? It's let's lean on each other, let's connect, because we can't get through everything by ourselves, and we shouldn't need to. It's about kind of taking that time and leaning on the people around you.
And knowing that you're not alone with your problems. I mean, I think it's so wonderful. And it's like, as soon as people go, oh no, I've struggled with this, or this is, even I'm trained in working with the higher self, but actually, so it happened quickly for me, but actually I was like, oh, this is how easy I could do it by using this technique, which is one of your techniques, which I wouldn't have tried. And now, I'm going to be like, come on, how quick you can tap into this energy. Let's do that. Because sometimes we don't have like a half an hour to sit down, but we always have these few minutes to do these exercises that you've given us today. So thank you.
We always have those couple of minutes, or just the 1 minute kind of like dance, shake it out, you can just, there's little things in there that just make the difference. So brilliant. Well, I'm really hoping that, anyone listening to this on the playback finds that really useful. If we can just help one or two people just help shift how they're feeling in a day, then that's what it's all about, isn't it? So, and a huge thank you to you, Cheryl, as well, for coming and joining me on my first show. Very exciting.
My pleasure. And I'd like to just say in conclusion that I've done a lot of your work and your practices, and you're a master mind warrior. I mean, it's just been fundamental in changing my what has most helped me with is self-belief, and I can't do this is a mantra that is a bit of my go-to, and that's why It's Too Hard came up. And actually what having your help made everything possible. So if anyone is struggling with it's too hard, I can't cope, I can't do this, yes you can. And your practice is amazing at getting people to believe that they can again. So big shout out about, I'm very grateful you do that work.
Thank you. That's a good reminder, actually. I've got some free content on my YouTube channel, which could help people as well. So techniques like this, and also some free hypnotherapy sessions. So it's Mind Warrior Coaching and Hypnotherapy on YouTube. And, hopefully something will help on there as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm going to play the end of the show clip and say thank you very much, Cheryl, and to everybody listening. Thank you.